Welcome to Winners and Losers, the show where we look at the highs and lows from around world football. Today I'm joined by Patrick from the Football Daily.
How's it going?
Let's kick it off. Our first big winner of the weekend has to come out of Old Trafford, and it's Manchester United golden boy Marcus Rashford. What a performance, 2 more goals to add to his collection against Arsenal. What did you think of his performance?
In a way, I thought the goals were the least impressive element. I thought his movement off the ball, his ability to hold up play, it was all really quite impressive against very experienced opposition.
Yeah, I mean, he's the 11th academy graduate now to be given a debut by Van Gaal. That's very impressive statistics. I mean, he's been forced into it to some respect because of injury, but taking nothing away, he stepped into Martial's and Wayne Rooney's shoes as well with ease. I mean, he talked about him before coming off the wing into a forward position. It's not easy to do.
Yeah, well, it looks like he's been moved into the centre by Gigi Buffon in the academy, and his ability to hold up play, he wasn't just a pace merchant. He was able to bring other players in, and that's actually what led to the Herrera goal. He was isolated up pitch and held on to it.
Definitely held on to the ball, turned with his back to goal, which is a hard skill to learn if you're a young striker. It's easy to use your pace and get in behind, maybe where you just work on an instinct, but to hold the ball up against somebody like Koscielny, bring other players into the game, I think is a really key aspect of his game.
And if he can deal with the hype, then it looks like they'll have a really good player. The only worry will be if Man United fans go a little overboard, they're going to need to calm themselves down. Like this Man United fan here.
Yeah,
Too excited.
What a player.
Now let's take a look at our first loser. It's Real Madrid club president Florentino Perez. Real Madrid had a horrible weekend, losing 1-0 to local rivals Atleti. Joe, what did you think?
Well, they're now 12 points behind Barcelona, and I think that's effectively title challenge over. They're also 5 points behind Atleti, and it all went wrong for him at the weekend. You've got to remember that Cristiano Ronaldo's come out and slated his own team, which is never nice to see. In fairness, I kind of agreed with some of his comments. The replacements just aren't at the same level that the players that they were replacing. You know, Karim Benzema being replaced by Hesse is never going to have the same impact. So I kind of agreed with Ronaldo in terms of that. Yeah,
well, a few years ago, the Real Madrid fans were complaining that they didn't have a good rival in the city. Well, between 1999 and 2013, Atletico didn't beat Real once in the league. Since then, 2 draws, 3 Atletico wins in 5 games.
That's absolutely incredible. And now it's 121 clean sheets in 234 games for Diego Simeone's
Absolutely
side.
Unbelievable.
Amazing. I mean, the structure he's put in place there since he's taken over has really worked miracles against top-level teams. And I think now you'll be able to see that Atleti will become title challengers year after year because he's laid down a foundation for a style of play there.
And it raises questions about whether Zinedine Zidane is a coach of sufficient quality to enable his team to break down difficult defences.
Definitely, it really does raise a few questions, Zidane. I think in his defence, you have to say, look, you've lost Bale, you've lost Benzema, you've had to bring Kovacic into the midfield, and I kind of think the players that they're replacing are so high quality. He hasn't really had his stamp on a transfer market yet, so give him a little bit more time before we write him off.
Well, if he gets to make his mark on the transfer market, that's the question, really. Yeah. But ultimately, the squad does look to be a bit unbalanced, and so you've got to put that at Perez's door. And so the question now is, what's next for him? You know,
you can't sack Zidane, can he?
He can't sack Zidane, and he might find himself in a bit of a hole come the summer.
Our next winner of the weekend is Gigi Buffon. Another stunning performance to take Juventus 4 points clear at the top of Serie A. What did you think of his performance?
Well, he's been there for 15 years now, putting in top performances all along. He's 38. And he's still doing it at the highest level. It's pretty impressive. Really
impressive. It's now 764 minutes since he last conceded a goal. Amazing stuff from Buffon. 8 consecutive clean sheets in Serie A for Juventus. How long can they keep it up for?
Well, it seems like they can keep it up for quite a while. They've been on a phenomenal winning streak. I thought that actually Hernanes also deserved a lot of credit for this performance. He came in against Bayern the other day and changed the game late on, which we didn't really expect. And in this game, he did a bit of everything. 3 shots, 2 interceptions, a block, a dribble, a tackle. He was able to do it all, and that's going to be really important for them.
And the last time that Juventus met Inter Milan, they were 8 points behind them. They're now 13 points ahead of them. That's a hell of a swing, hell of a turnaround. Do you see Napoli having any chance in this, or is it just a walkway for their 5th Scudetti in a row?
It looks like it's going to be an interesting run-in, and perhaps the first interesting run-in in Serie A for 4 or 5 years.
It's very, very true. But who do you guys at home think is going to win Serie A this season? Is it going to be Juventus or is it going to be Napoli? Let us know in the comments below. From Italy to France, and I'm putting PSG firmly in the loser category. 36 game streak before the weekend. They lost to a really poor Lyon side.
I disagree. I think they'll be frustrated, but I think it's hard to call them losers when they're 23 points clear with only 10 games left to go. They're going to win the title. There's only so sad they're going to be.
I think the biggest problem for me, though, is that they're on a 27-game Liga winning streak. They're 5 games away from beating the record of Nantes set in 94, 95 of 32. You've got to chase that down, and you've got to put out a better midfield than Rabiot, Motta and Stambouli. You're not going to create anything in that midfield, and you're playing such a poor Lyon side. It's not world beaters in this Lyon side. They've got to do better, so for me, that's the reason they've got to go in losers.
I think PSG, though, have different priorities now. It's not just the league anymore, and they want to make sure they have Matuidi, Verratti, Pastore, all fit for a good Champions League run. So yeah, I agree with you that they'll be sad, but I disagree that they're losers. They're still going to win the league.
But what do you guys at home think? Are they winners or are they losers this weekend? Do you agree with Patrick or do you agree with me? Let us know in the comments below.
Next up in the winners category is Manchester City keeper Willy Caballero. He was man of the match in the League Cup final as City beat Liverpool on penalties. Joe, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, in the build-up, the pundits, they were absolutely slamming him. They were saying he was a joke from the performance against Chelsea, which might have a little bit of truth to him. He wasn't very good in that. But then they were saying that he's second choice. Pellegrini's had a nightmare picking him. He comes into the game, makes a few good saves. Nothing he can really do about the goal. It comes back off the post. But then he saves 3 penalties in a shootout, 1 spectacular one from Lallana. And I think it's just an all-round great day for Caballero and for Pellegrini.
Yeah, it's definitely a win for Pellegrini. He brought in Caballero from Malaga, feeling he was somebody he could rely on. And now he's paid him back in kind by winning him a cup final. I think that Pellegrini said that he'd rather lose the cup than go back on his word to play Caballero in it. So it once again proves that Pellegrini is one of the nicest guys in the Premier League, and it'll be sad to see him go. Back to our losers, it's Arsene Wenger. He had a pretty horrific week, actually, drawing 0-0 with Hull and earning himself a replay, losing 2-0 to Barcelona, and then going away to a pretty youthful Man United team and losing 3-2. Joe?
Yeah, I mean, pretty youthful is almost putting it lightly, isn't it? I mean, why he hasn't picked Giroud and Per Mertesacker for this game boggles the mind. Per Mertesacker is coming up against an 18-year-old Marcus Rashford. He's had 1 previous senior game. Surely you put your most experienced player, your captain, and you back him. He might not be as quick as Rashford, but you've got to back your captain to be able to deal with an 18-year-old Rashford instead of bringing Gabriel in, who's clearly got no connection with Koscielny. They looked miles apart the whole game. You can see it in Rashford's second goal, and it was just a poor decision from Wenger.
And United left space for Gabriel to walk into, knowing that he probably wouldn't punish him with his inferior passing. So now it's left Arsenal with an uphill climb. They've got to probably beat Spurs in the North London derby next week.
Well, they've definitely got to beat Spurs in the North London derby. I don't think there's 2 ways about it. If he loses to Spurs, he is completely out of the title race. He'll be 6 points behind his North London rivals. He'll be 8 points behind Leicester if they win on the weekend. That is insurmountable at that stage. So this weekend's result to Manchester United is an absolute horror show for Wenger. He had to win that game against that Manchester United team. He just had to. It was classic Wenger to lose that.
And now Arsene Wenger is going to have to answer questions about his January business. Is Mohamed El Neni enough?
He was never going to be enough. I think everybody kind of knew when El Neni joined that he wasn't going to be enough. Surely he was going to sign a striker. And if you haven't got the belief in Olivier Giroud to go out and match Daley Blind and Carrick, then surely that speaks volumes about what you need to do in the transfer market in January. I mean, that's a basic fundamental mistake by Wenger.
And now Arsene Wenger faces an even more packed schedule and an uphill struggle as Arsenal visit North London rivals Spurs next week. That looks like being a must-win game.
I'm going to put Spurs and Leicester in one category of my last winners this weekend, just purely because Arsenal lost and they won and they've jumped ahead in the title race now. I think that's a big weekend for Mauricio Pochettino and Claudio Ranieri. What do you reckon, Pat?
Well, both of them looked like they were having a tough time as well. Leicester didn't have a shot on target for pretty much the first hour, scabbed a win in the 90th minute. Yeah. Spurs, on the other hand, just keep going. We worried that they perhaps lose steam towards the end of the season because of their high-pressing style, but actually, they were excellent. Danny Rose particularly, I thought he was brilliant yesterday.
And that kind of last-minute Ulloa goal, that almost encapsulates Leicester's season, doesn't it? Playing a 4-4-2, high pressure the whole game. Like you say, didn't maybe have the best of days, but as champions do, as they kind of just scraped by. They won when they weren't playing well. So does that sum it up? And are Leicester going to win the league, do you reckon, Pat?
Oh, I don't know. I'd probably put my money on Spurs. But I think it's interesting that all season we've been saying, well, Leicester don't have any depth, and their sub-striker comes on, scores them a great goal.
Yeah, and that's a typical fringe goal from Ulloa. But what do you guys at home think? Who had the better weekend? Was it Spurs or was it Leicester? And who's going to win the league? Let us know in the comments below.
Our final loser, I'm sorry to say, is Valencia manager Gary Neville. Valencia lost 3-0 at home to Athletic Bilbao. Joe, what did you think?
Bad day for Neville. Just as he looked like he was starting to get some momentum as well. So frustrating. I know there was talk in the week, wasn't there, that he was going to get a 2-year contract. But then you think Pellegrini available, maybe that's where the future lies for Valencia. Conceding 3 goals in 6 minutes, absolutely disastrous for Valencia. And then his own player, Parejo, gets booed off by the fans. Bad day for Neville.
Neville's had some bad luck. He was complaining that the ref didn't give his side 2 penalties yesterday. He called him a joke. They're going to need some better luck in the run-in, otherwise Gary Neville is going to be back on Monday Night Football next season.
So those were our biggest winners and losers from the weekend, but who was yours at home? Let us know in the comments below.
And if you enjoyed this, then check out our latest video and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Catch you next time.